Hello, how are you guys today? We are here.
Hey,
We are back like we never left, honey. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
I gotta remember which way I'm turning.
Yes, I'm doing well.
You are you,
I
sir?
am. We
Okay.
had our little spring break.
Yeah, we had our little spring break. Hey, everybody, as you guys are coming in, what's up, Cookie? Hey, lovely 31.
Hey everyone. Hey everyone.
Yes.
How are you all? Lovely 31. I feel like I ain't seen you in a minute. How are you, boo?
Well, you
Happy
right.
birthday, Tracy.
Yes, happy birthday to Tracy. She is the one of the best mods in the world. She's also my producer and my showrunner over on the Really Be TV channel. Cause baby, if y'all only knew that Tracy be keeping me up on the up when it comes to keeping up with everything I need to keep up with over there, honey.
Yes, she does. She keeps us up to
Yeah.
speed on stuff.
Yeah, so happy birthday. Enjoy your day, my love.
I made sure she got some meat today.
Oh,
That's the topic for another channel.
oh, okay. Never.
Well, I didn't. I well, let me take that back.
Okay.
I did. She had something to choose from. Let's just say like that.
Wow. All right. Well, we're gonna leave that on the other channel. Hey, what's up,
Ooh.
everybody? Hey, Sylvia, how you guys doing? So
Oh
listen,
man.
so we named it, we titled this episode "Decisions Have Consequences." I started to say "Bad decisions have consequences," but we'll just leave it at "Decisions have consequences." Because um, I say that because we're gonna start this episode off by talking about a couple of stories that went viral. So we had the first story. I don't have the clip, but there was a video. This was a few months ago, where a teacher and a student got into a scuffle over a phone. You know what? That's a bigger conversation. I'm gonna come back to the phone thing, El Teddy. We will come back to that. But over a phone, the student, the teacher was putting the student out of the classroom. The student put her leg in the door to stop the teacher, and they eventually ended into a physical altercation, which resulted in the teacher breaking her leg. Um, the teacher actually broke her leg, and so we got an update to that story, and we found
And
out that
let's be clear, the student assaulted the teacher first. The
oh yeah,
teacher did
the
not.
student started it. The student
The,
started
the
it.
teacher, the student started verbally assaulting her and then physically started hitting that teacher. And the teacher tried to defend herself and get the student off of her. The teacher
Yeah,
fell and she broke her leg.
right. And the teacher across the hall, I guess security didn't get there fast enough. Like in the video, you saw the teacher across the hall had to physically drag the student away. Like the student was on the ground and wouldn't get off the teacher. She physically grabbed her jacket or her hair and physically had to drag her. Well, that student has now been charged and has been convicted to 1 year in a juvenile facility. So, then of course we had the case that went viral last week with the substitute teacher that got into the physical altercation with the student, and we found out that both of them actually got arrested. And so that's going to probably end up being a wash if both of them are being charged. They're going to probably call that mutual combat. Um, but we've seen a lot of these videos of students getting into these physical altercations over a cell
But
phone.
really be, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Papa. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just to cut to the chase for some people, 90% of what you see, if there's an altercation between student and teacher, probably involves a phone. I would venture to say 85 to 90% of the real confrontations between teacher and students involve a phone. Is, is that the, would you venture to guess that number is about right?
Right. So that was going to actually be my next question. My next question to you was going to be about that. Like, where are, like, I know you haven't been in the the classroom in a well traditional classroom in a while. But I know for me, my cell phone, my personal cell phone policy has changed since we've come back into the building. Um, I guess I guess where I'm at with it is this. What there's layers to it. My first thing is if it's a school policy, then parents, you need to adhere to the fact that it's a school policy. You need to respect it, you need to support it, and you need to adhere to it. But then the flip side of it is if it's a policy that you either are not willing to enforce or you can't enforce, we have to stop putting our teachers in these positions to enforce a policy that you can't or won't enforce.
Because see, what happens is you follow the policy, they go to the administration, and then administration acts like that's not the policy, or they won't support you in your efforts to support their policy and cut your legs underneath from underneath you.
Yeah.
And it's so counter, and you're stuck there in the middle. My policy always was because there were times that we needed the phone in the classroom. My policy was simple. Listen, if I'm in the middle of, lecturing or we're going through something and you're on your phone, if I catch you, the first time I'm going to say, hey, put it away. I'm going to give you that one grace. You get the one grace. Hey, put your phone away. I know. Baby, after that, we don't have to go back and forward. After that, sit it on my desk. At the end of the period, you can get your phone back and go on with life. Other than that, I'm following the district policy. And our district policy was we could actually confiscate the phone, have the phone shipped down, and I would have a big, out of the student code of conduct, blown up poster, confiscate the phone, have the phone mailed downtown, have the parent come downtown, show proof of purchase for the phone, and get the phone. hmm And so I
Yeah.
said, these are your alternatives. You can either just sit it up. It's real easy. Sit it on my desk. It'll be there. And you can get it after class, at the end of class, and going on with life. And we ain't got to have nothing to it.
So my policy was very similar to yours before, prior to the Panorama. Um, the students come in. If I, like you said, if I catch on your phone, I ask you to put it away. Again, I'm gonna give you that chance to be mature enough to put it away. And generally speaking, during independent study time when they would work on an assignment or what have you, I would allow them if they wanted to put their earbuds in and listen to music. I didn't have a problem with that. As long as it looked like they were working, as long as they were getting the work done. Obviously, if they were working in groups, no, you guys kind of, you need to be present. If they, I caught them a second time, I actually had a cell phone hotel in my classroom, which was basically just an old shoe rack, those old school shoe racks you can put on the back of your door. I had one of those, and each situation was numbered, and they had to put their phone in the hotel, and they had to park into the hotel until independent study time. Now, post Panorama, now that we're on a one-to-one situation in our building, if for whatever reason the kids don't have their computer that day or their computer isn't working, which happens a lot, I allow them to use their phones because basically they can get on everything on their phone that they can get on from the computer. They can get into Google Classroom, they can get into Clever, they can
Mhm.
get into all of the apps. So I've become a lot more lenient now that we're a one-to-one school because they literally need their computers every day. And if they don't have their computer, they need it. But I see all these videos going viral, and I feel like if these school districts are not able to or willing to, um, then we need to just let the cell phone policy go. It's not worth you being physically assaulted. But it's not okay for students to feel like they can do it. Like that's the crazy part. Like it never occurred to me to put my hands on an adult, whether it was my parents, whether it was a teacher, whether it was it just never occurred to me. And the fact that these kids, without any hesitation feel like it is okay for them to put their hands on these other adults is what's really more troubling than the policies. It's the fact that there just seems to be no authority there, no level, no respect for
But
authority.
the going thing in, if you look at when these things go viral and the comments there, there's this hypocrisy amongst people in the in the comment section, or the a lot of the viewing public that watches these things, that expect the teacher to have this extraordinary amount of restraint and just allow this child to beat on them, and with no repercussions, and they're supposed to, it's just supposed to be okay. And if the teacher does do anything to stop or get this human being from attacking them, then the teacher is all of a sudden seem like they're wrong. And then you see people saying, "Oh, well, if that was my child, I'll go out there and I'll do da 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 to that teacher, because that teacher ain't gonna touch my child." But wait a minute. And so there's, and we've seen this gradual shift really be. We you know, me and you and me both have seen this shift in how not just the parents but society in general looks at the role of a teacher. There's diminished authority there. They don't want to give any credence to that instructor, that professional educator having the authority in that classroom. And it speaks to a much wider issue. It speaks to everything that's the problem with teaching: the lack of respect for the profession, the lack of which, bleeds into the fact that the pay isn't well, bleeds into the fact that uh, people have the whole shtick. Well, eh, um, when in doubt, teach, or those who can't do it, they teach, things like that, as if it diminishes the entirety of the profession from being taken seriously, because nobody's out here fighting for the teachers. They'll say they are, but there's no real fight out here, to be sure. But we'll see in some of the articles that we're seeing today, they're going to have to pay the somebody's going to have to pay the pauper. Somebody's going to have to pay the price for the diminished role that you have, or the diminished way that they look at education, because it is a necessary evil. I shouldn't say evil, that's probably not the best word, but it is necessary and vital to our society. It's vital.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, let's get into some of the things that we have to say. Of course, we have our. Looks like we have what, two stories from Texas. We got Louisiana, and we
Listen,
have
Texas said they got Governor Hot Wheels in Texas said they got sick of y'all talking about death sentence, and they said they wanted to reestablish dominance in the holy trinity of racism, discrimination, and bigotry. Mhm.
trial. Well, we have Alabama, Louisiana, and then we have two from Texas. You want a sandwich? You want to have Texas on the front and Texas on the back end, and have the two in the middle? How you want to handle it?
Let's do Texas all in the middle.
Okay,
Just
so let's
if
start
we
with
don't have to
Alabama.
dive into Texas, we just go dive into both of them, and get
We
them.
got no problem. No problem. Once we get there, let's just go on and stay there,
Let's
child.
go ahead
All right,
and
well, let's
finish.
start with Alabama because
Okay.
that was just the first one I opened up. All right, I'm dropping the link in the chat.
As I
Um,
look at the face of Kay Ivey, I can't help but think of real women in politics.
child.
Because they had her face all over the little koozies for real women in politics. Oh man.
Yeah, Citizen Jane. I'm sorry, I'm gonna read this and then we can move on. Citizen Jane says a friend of mine said if my kid hits you, it's your job to figure out, but you better not lay a hand on my child. I said then you need to homeschool them. Well, there you go. It's just
Like it just baffles the mind. It just baffles the mind. It completely baffles the mind.
child. Anyway, let's get into it because we can make a whole episode about that. All right.
Hmm.
The link is in the chat. Let me get ready to read you guys this story. We have Governor. Oh Lord, we might need to add Alabama. I don't know. I think before it's over, Alabama might be in our top five by the end of this year. I'll tell you. I don't know. GOP governor outs top education official over book that promotes equality, dignity, and worth of all. Fastest was one word response from one critic of Republican Governor Kay Ivey's administration in Alabama. The state of Alabama's top early education official was forced out Friday. I'm sorry, I didn't tell you guys where this is from. This is from Common Dreams, and this is dated. Golly, sorry, I had to hiccup.
April
April
22nd.
22nd. All right, so was ousted Friday by Governor Kay Ivey over a teacher resource guide, one that promotes inclusion of various kinds of families and acknowledges the reality of racism in in the nation's history. The Republican leader denounced as too woke. Oh, they don't like that word woke. Ooh, they don't like it. Anyway, after an apparent refusal to denounce the book or accept its removal, Barbara Cooper, head of the Alabama Department of Early Education, was compelled to tender her resignation, which Ivy accepted. The text in question is a widely used resource guide for early childhood educators that informs teachers that the early education system is not immune from the forces of systemic and institutional racism embedded in the history and development of the United States. The book, according to a review of its contents by the Associated Press, also urges inclusion and understanding for young children coming into education programs from all kinds of different families. Early childhood programs also serve and welcome families that represent many compositions. Children from all families, i.e., single parent, grandparent led, and LGBTQIA, need to hear and see messages that promote equality, dignity, and worth. A spokesperson for Ivy's office, Gina Mayola, I'm gonna say that Mayola, identified the book as the National Association for the Education of Young Children Developmentally Appropriate Practice Book, 4th edition, and told reporters that copies of the text can be removed, have been removed from all classrooms in the state. Mayola said the book's glossary includes equally disturbing concepts that the Ivy administration and the people of Alabama in no way, shape, or form believe should be used to influence school children, let alone 4 year olds. The NAEYC, a national accrediting board that supplies materials and performs reviews for educational institutions and teachers nationwide, states on its website that the organization promotes high quality early learning for all children, birth through age 8, by connecting practice, policy, and research. Then they have an excerpt from the book. I'm going to get in all of that. On Friday evening, the NAEYC sent a statement to AL.com in response to the ouster of Cooper, who happens to sit on the group's national governing board, and about the resource guide itself. For nearly 4 decades, and in partnership with hundreds and thousands of families and educators, developmentally appropriate practice has served as the foundation for a high quality early childhood education across all states and communities. While not a curriculum, it is a responsive, educator developed, educator informed, and research based resource that has been honed over multiple generations to support teachers in helping all children thrive and reach their full potential. Building on the good work that is happening in states and communities, NAEYC looks forward to continuing its partnership with families, educators, and policymakers to further out shared goals of offering joyful learning environments that see, support, and reflect all children and their families. Megan Corland, an early childhood researcher, responded to the story online by saying that Cooper's ouster was massively concerning, and I suspect it echoes what many teachers and districts have had to navigate locally. This book was a NAEYC developed resource used as a guide, not curriculum. And while Alabama ranks poorly in public education performance overall, she remarked that the state is commonly held as a success in early childhood education.
Um,
Hmm.
the real problem here is this: they don't. It's it's a going from saying we don't want our children to learn this, now to it's we don't want teachers even knowing this or acknowledging. The biggest problem was, and I do want to read that excerpt that we didn't read. I just want to read this excerpt. It says
Okay,
the
no
book
problem.
is a guide for early childhood educators. It is not a curriculum taught to children. The governor's office, in a press release, cited two examples from the book, one discussing white privilege and that, quote, the United States is built on systemic and structural racism, end quote, and another that Ivy's office claimed teaches LGBT plus inclusion to 4 year olds. Those sections, according to a copy of the 881-page book obtained by the Associated Press, discuss combating bias and making sure that all children feel welcome. That's the problem. They don't want all children to feel welcome. It's not that they're saying teaching 4 year olds even what all about racism and everything. They're just saying, hey, acknowledge the fact that children come from all types of backgrounds and be cognizant of that so that all of your children feel welcome. So there's a problem when a state government said that there's something wrong with pedagogy that says that you should make all children feel welcome, regardless of what household they come from. Because children are inquisitive. A 4 year old absolutely is going to look at 4 year old Brenda is going to look at 4 year old Justin and say, hey, Justin, how do you get to have two mommies? Or how do you get to have two daddies? And Justin's going to say, I've always had two daddies. And Brenda might say, well, I have one daddy and one mom, and I don't feel like, these are conversations that 4 year olds have with each other, to which now that teacher has to address this and say, hey, we are just like there are different colors in the crayon box. Everybody's family can look different, but they're all still families, just like all of those crayons are all crayons. They just come in different shades and they all do the same thing. It makes the whole crayon box. I think that's how my teacher, when I was in kindergarten, I remember the crayon box metaphor with my kindergarten teacher when she talked about people with different shades. She pulled out the little crayon. She says, listen, we all love crayons, and everybody cheered as a 4 year old. And she said, you use all of the crayons, don't you? Yes. And then she says, well, all of them do the same thing. They all color, they all belong in the box, they make your box complete. But they just have different colors to them. And it's the same thing with people. We're all people. We just may have different colors, but we're all the same people in the same box, and nobody's better than the other. And I
Mm-hmm.
understood it as a 4 year old. But now, even telling them to acknowledge the fact that people come from different homes, households, you know, family makeups is a problem. That's the real problem. And so, not that we're teaching them, but we don't want to even acknowledge them anymore. Let me stop really because I might spike out. Go ahead, please.
So last year, um, I was with a friend of mine who has a child in was starting school. Her daughter was in kindergarten last year. Now, granted, they're at a private school in the state of Pennsylvania, which is a lot more. Well, the part of Pennsylvania where they live, they're in the Philadelphia area, which is a lot more progressive. I mean, that's why I had to clarify that because not all of Pennsylvania is. But I sat in. It was a via Zoom. It was like a parent teacher. It was late in the school year, so I don't know why they were doing it so late. But it was kind of a almost like a back to school night type of setting where the kids put together these videos and the parents. It was like a parent meeting, and I sat in with it because it was via Zoom, so I was there, and it shocked. It shouldn't have shocked me, I guess, but it did shock me how many kids in her daughter's class had same sex parents. And as the kids were introducing themselves, and they like if they said their name, and then they said who else was in their family, and then they kind of said, and I like the color blue. They kindergartner, so and I like the color blue, and my favorite thing to do is play with my dog, that kind of thing. And I say all that to say, This is the reflection of what we're dealing with. We know that we've always had grandparents or non-traditional parents raising kids, and that ain't her issue. We know that that's not the issue. We know
Hmm.
the issue is LGBTQ families being included in these conversations. But again, I think about my friend and her daughter who's in a classroom and sees that she comes from a traditional mommy, daddy, nuclear family, but that's not what she's around every day. So we have to have the conversation. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, and I know that ignorance is just going to be ignorant. But again, this isn't a curriculum that's teaching kids about anything LGBTQ. This is for teachers to be, to have a guide as to how to have these conversations that they're going to have. Because when Sally shows up and her mommy's name is Jenny and her other mommy's name is Sue, the question is, wait a
I mean, because what are you going to do? You're going to stop the parents from coming to see about
right,
their children?
right.
Is that where we're going next?
You got to pick one, and it has to be the same one the whole year because we don't want to
No,
confuse
but
kids.
really, be. I'm telling you, I could see school districts saying that if you have a household which is same gender loving, that only one parent or the biological
Absolutely,
parent or one, and they're going to say both parents
absolutely.
aren't going to be able to come. We are going down that road.
Listen, let me say this. I'm gonna say, and El Teddy, I'm gonna say it for you because I know you. I mean, you just said it, but I'm gonna take it a step further. I'm gonna toot our own horn for a second. If you're listening to this, we have some new subscribers, so y'all might be new to the family over here, and that's great. Come on in. You catch this in the replay, come on in. But let me say this: El Teddy and I have been very predictive in the trends that we are seeing in education. And I'm with you, El Teddy, when I say I'm going to say right now, y'all can mark the date. Episode season 4, episode 11, April the what is the day? The 28th, 27th,
26.
26th. Lord, I'm all the way in the weekend. The 26th. Maybe I'm on the 28th because I'm gonna see El Teddy this weekend. Anyway, we gonna see each other. Okay. But with that being said, I absolutely agree with you. I see the Holy Trinity. I see the Alabamas of the world. I see these school boards in these counties saying we we don't want to confuse the kids, so parents are going to have to choose which parent is going to be responsible for coming to the school for parent teacher conference, for games, for assemblies, for all of these different things. And I can see that. I can absolutely see that it going in that direction. I'm with you on that 100%.
And here's the other thing. And if they go down that road, see, here's how they're going to mess themselves up. Let's say they go down that road, or it has to be the biological parent or only one parent. Let's say you're the child of a trans man,
Ooh, child, now you're getting real.
and the mom
Now
is
you're
not
getting
the one who gave birth to you, but the dad is the one who gave birth to you. You see how slippery this slope is?
It's a slippery slope.
A mess is what it is, a whole mess. But we are careening down this road. I mean, the fact that you are now rejecting sound educational pedagogy, just rejecting sound educational pedagogy in one of the states that is the worst performing states educationally is beyond my level of comprehension.
Yeah, and Tracy said it wasn't until she was in what was this? It wasn't until she was oh Lord, I done went too far. She said it wasn't until she was in school that she learned that both parents didn't always live in the same home because she came from a household where both of her parents were in the home, and that was something she learned. I remember being in school and seeing letters going home that said parent or guardian, and I remember asking my parents, "Well, what's a guardian? What does that mean?" And they explained it to me. They everybody doesn't live with their mom or their dad, and some of them live with and so. But again, it's the same thing. All families just don't look the same, and you know, but you're right. Anyway, oh child, we know where we going, child. I want to give a shout out before we go any further. I want to give a shout out to Crispies. Crispies is one of our teachers that
Yes.
um has been
In
working
LA.
with
I believe Crispy's is
yeah,
out
she's
in
in
LA.
LA and she's been
Mm-hmm.
keeping us abreast on the fight out there in LA. She sent me an article, what was it, last week, Crispies, that the union has reached a tentative agreement and you guys are voting next month. I think is what she said to me. So we know they had gone out on strike. And so she said that they've come up with the language and now they just have to vote on it. So congratulations again. That's what democracy looks like. Shout out to LA for standing in solidarity with even with the paraprofessionals and the non classroom
Mm-hmm.
employees. And shout out to them for getting. It sounds like they got a decent deal out of it. I mean, the thing about
Mm-hmm.
a negotiation is nobody's supposed to walk away 100% happy in a negotiation. But from what we read, it sounds like they got a pretty good deal. They got some back pay, some great raises, and so congratulations to them.
Even some insurance for people who
Yeah,
didn't have
yeah,
insurance earlier.
congratulations. And what we were saying, Crispies, and you can tell me if our thought process is a little bit off, but from what it sounded like, because they raised the minimum wage or the hourly wage, I should say, excuse me, of those workers, it sounds like that could trickle down to you guys as educators and will end up raising um
The salaries of the
their salaries.
teachers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, hold on. Hold on. Robin of Detroit says, "Hey, really be hey El Teddy. Sounds as if my mom or my younger sister was your kindergarten teacher. My niece also uses the crayon analogy with her kindergarten class.
Oh
Well, El
wow.
well, I mean, don't say it on here. You don't have to say it on here. But El Teddy, I don't know because El Teddy's 105. I don't know
You
if
know what? Don't do me. Do not
I'm
do
joking.
me.
I'm joking. I'm joking. But El Teddy grew up in the Florida area. So if your mom ever taught in the Florida area, he may very well have been one of her babies. Wow. Wouldn't that be a blessing? But yeah,
Lord,
the
here you
Crayola
go. And
analogy. And it
don't
sounds
get
like you come
started
from
because
a
Tracy
family.
will get started in the chat.
And it sounds like you come from a family of educators. So shout out and salute to you guys, to your family. She
Yeah,
said
I
her
vividly. But you know what really be it's so funny because the simplest things explain some very complex
yeah, yeah,
things. Like the gingerbread person
yes,
explaining that
yes,
it takes sometimes the simplest metaphor that helps you really understand very complex things.
yes,
Really,
yes.
that's what we're doing. So everybody's gonna remark about this 105 thing. That's what we're doing. I just want you to know, ma'am, that you started this. I want you to know you started it. I'm just saying.
You'll get me back at some point.
Oh, I will. Just know that.
Abby's in the chat. So listen, y'all. The Holy Trinity will be together this weekend.
Well,
Abby, El Teddy, and myself. So at some point, y'all know y'all gonna see us. Anyway, I don't want to get too
hmm
far off. Let's get to let's get to our next story. So we had that was Alabama, child. Let's get into what did we say? Louisiana, I think was the other state, and then we have these
Texas.
two.
We have to go
We have two
to.
Texas, but remember we had a Louisiana in there. So let's look at this Louisiana one.
Oh, I thought we
Uh,
was doing Texas all in the middle. Okay, go ahead.
you're right. No, no, no. You're right. You're right. You're right. Texas is the inside of the sandwich. It's the inside.
hmm
My bad. You right. You right. All right, let's go. All right, let's head on over to Texas. Um, let's do this one first. Let's talk about this stipend because rather than try to pass some sort of comprehensive gun legislation, they'd rather just find money that we know they don't have. But we'll get to that, child. Myself, both my parents, and two or three sisters are about that life. I know that's right. I know that's right. Well, congratulations to you guys. We always beg for a cost of living increase. However, LA is so expensive, we barely get what we ask for. Wow. Mm, yeah. All right. Let's get to it. So, sorry, that's the wrong one. All right. This is coming from Police One. Okay. This is dated. This is date well, the Associated Press, but this is dated today. The last updated at 10:07 a.m. this morning. Texas lawmakers proposed stipends of up to $25,000 for armed school staff members. Under the bill, teachers and staff would need to take a course in first aid, firearm training, and mental health. Texas schools could offer stipends of up to $25,000 to staff members who add the role of armed campus sentinels to their regular duties under a proposed advance Tuesday by state lawmakers in response to the what's it, Uvele? Am I saying it right? The school attack.
Uvalde.
Uvalde. Thank you. With U.S. mass shootings on a record pace so far in 2023, there have been new calls among some lawmakers for more armed personnel in schools. Also on Tuesday, U.S. Senator Rick Scott of Florida proposed a $80 million federal program to fund armed officers in all U.S. schools. Texas already lets teachers carry guns under a voluntary program that requires firearms lesson, but has drawn relatively few takers. Surprised. Under the new proposal, armed personnel must also train in identifying students with mental health issues. What I want to pay them for is hopefully getting the training needed to spot the children before we have a problem, says Republican State Rep Ken King, who authored the bill. The legislation, which overwhelmingly passed the Texas House with bipartisan support, now goes to the Senate where its prospects are uncertain. Texas lawmakers have only a few weeks left to pass any school safety measures before adjourning on May the 29th. That is just a few days after the anniversary of the Robb Elementary School shooting, where a gunman unalived 19 children and two teachers. Some of the families have spent months pleading for tougher gun laws, in particular one that would raise the age to purchase a semi-automatic rifle. But GOP leaders have made it clear they do not support such restrictions. Under the Texas bill, teachers and staff of public and open enrollment charter schools will be eligible to earn up to the $25,000 extra for opting to be armed for campus security. They will also need to take courses in first aid, firearms training, and mental health training, which will be added to the mental health training Texas lawmakers want to require for all school employees. Other new school safety measures advancing in Texas will require at least one armed person, ranging from a police officer to a school staff member, on all public school campuses. A bill requiring silent panic buttons in classrooms is now headed to Republican Governor Greg Abbott for his signature. Texas State Rep James Tellerico, a Democrat and former teacher who voted against Tuesday's proposal, said he worried the bill would create an incentive for teachers struggling financially to start carrying weapons. Even teachers who don't want to carry guns may feel like they are financially pressured to do so just so they can provide for their families. After the Sandy Hook shooting in 2012, Texas created a voluntary school marshal program in which applicants must first be approved by the school districts, pass a psychological exam, and receive 80 hours of training, including in live shooter scenarios. In its first 4 years, the program certified just 33 marshals across the state, which has about 9,000 campuses. By summer of 2022, shortly after Robb Elementary, there were still fewer than 400. I have so many things. Go ahead, El Teddy.
What do you want me to say here? What in the world am you know that this is Texas we're talking about. You know full well there's going to be no shortage of people in the great state of Texas governed by Governor Hot Wheels that say, oh, 20, you offer a teacher $25,000 in a bonus and see what they do. Now, did they say if it would be a one time or if it would be an annual stipend added onto the salary?
It didn't say. I'm thinking one time. I don't see them doing this every year. I could be
Okay.
wrong, but I don't see that every year.
So I just feel like this is going to happen whether or not we want it to. And please be prepared for the consequences that will come. Because who's to say something happens and a mistake is made. The wrong person is shot. Somebody, because teachers face issues surrounding mental health as well. Somebody comes in impaired, a mental health issue or something's going on, and they're the ones with the license that decide that they want to, pop off and it's just so many bad things that can happen with it. More, we've proven over and over and over, more guns is not the answer. But it used to be a situation where you could go into the classroom or go into the school site. Remember when school sites were safe havens where you could get away from everything going out on outside the school grounds, all of the foolery going on in the city or in the world or in the state, and that was a place where students could escape some of the horrible things going on in our society. That is no more. That is absolutely no more. There are no more safe places. Hell, they've made all of the schools get rid of even the little. Remember how you used to have the triangle for the that was signified that that was a class that was safe for LGBTQ. Those are all going away. Remember how school was a place where you could try to get away from the racism and bigotry and stuff like that, and learn and be edified in who you are, and empowered to know who you are as a person and as a culture. That's all going away. Remember how you could go to schools and get away from some of the gun violence and everything that might have been going on in your neighborhood? That's all going away. I mean, there's no more sacred spaces. I don't know. That's just my thought on it when I think about it. Like, all of this is gone. It's gone away, and I don't know that it'll ever come back. Ever.
So, so I have a lot of things with this article. So my first issue is issue number one. It says that they want to give training to teachers to better identify potential problem students. I say to that, again, it has been my experience that a lot of times the students are identified. Nobody does anything about it. Um, a lot of times, if you look at a lot of these situations where kids were involved, you always hear the story of, oh, well, they were the outcasts. Oh, well, they were being bullied. Oh, well, these things were happening that everybody seemed to know about after the fact. Nobody did anything about it. And part of the reason why nobody did anything, not out of neglect, but because we are not putting the money into the schools to make sure that there are enough counselors in the buildings, to make sure there are enough mental health professionals in these buildings. You can give me training all day long on identifying certain things, but that's not my degree is in. And you want me to teach a class and do lesson plans and do hall duty and do class lunch duty and write curriculum, and you want me to do 500 other things, and now you want me to identify potentially students who could become violent, right? So that's number one. Take that $25,000 stipend and add some positions to these schools to fully staff these schools to make sure that each school has the things that we need in order to not just identify the students that are struggling, but to have the resources in place to help those students on a consistent basis. Number two, you want to give teachers $25,000 to get this extra training and to be able to carry a weapon into the building, but y'all can't seem to find money for nothing else. It's funny to me how they can find money for this, L Teddy, but they can't seem to find money for nothing else. Hell, we can barely get money for reams of paper sometimes.
Right.
It ain't in the budget. And
But
I
they find money for guns and ammo.
don't they? They got money for wars but can't feed the poor. Okay, cool. Shout out to Tupac. So I say all of that to say this. I understand it's Texas, and I was actually surprised that the numbers were so low for the people who already took them up on the offer to be marshals. But again, they didn't add that $25 stipend in there, and that takes it away. But let me say this: what is going to be in place for the adults who take them up on this offer? I understand on the front end they got to have psychological evaluations and blah, blah, blah. But is there like a yearly recertification for this program? Because I might be fine now, but in the course of a year, maybe my wife leaves me. Maybe I lose, somebody in my family gets sick and I got medical bills. Maybe things happen to stress me out. And maybe I shouldn't be carrying a weapon to school every day.
You making way too much sense.
I'm
It don't
just
make sense to make sense, really be.
I'm just
It does
saying.
not make sense to make sense. I'm telling you what I
Crispy,
know.
Crispy said that's a bigger stipend than you get for getting nationally board certified.
I'm trying to tell you. That is bigger than what I got when I got national board certified. That is absolutely bigger. I think we got 10K. That's it in my district.
I just it's just crazy to me. But neither here nor there. It's Texas, so you know what's funny? We're going to have a guest on our show. Hopefully next week. We couldn't make the schedules work this week, you guys. But maybe next week we're going to have a guest on our show, and we're looking forward to speaking with her. Her name is Kiki, and she is actually a transgendered teacher, and she teaches in Texas. I wonder if she would be qualified. I wonder if they
Mm,
would allow her to become a sentinel.
mm,
What you think?
mm, mm,
Hmm.
mm. That's a good question, especially after Nashville.
Right. Anyway, and I'm not telling her business. That's part of what we're going to talk about. She's very open about her transition and her journey, and that's part of the conversation we're going to have. So we might need to put that in the arsenal to talk to her about next week.
Hmm.
Ask her about it, because that's definitely one of the things we're going to talk to her about is teaching in the state of Texas, being a transgendered woman. But anyway, we'll get again. Like I said, we couldn't make the schedules work this week. Hopefully next week we can get her there. All right. Shout out to us having almost 40 people in the chat. Thank y'all
Come
for being
on,
here.
40.
Come on, 40. If you guys can hit the like button while you're here and let your friends know that we over here, because we doing some things over here, okay? All
We
right,
are doing some things over here.
we are doing some things. Let's get to the other part of this sandwich, honey. So there's Texas. There's Texas. All right.
More Texas is coming.
More Texas. Here we go. Now, what's funny is this article coming right behind that article. That's what's
Right, right, exactly.
excuse me.
You need me to read this since you coughed and you can take some water?
Yeah, let me get my water. Let me. I'm still
Yeah,
getting
I'll read this.
over this cold, child.
This story is coming from the Dallas Morning News. The title is "We Have to Increase Teacher Quality." Texas House advances bill on educator retention. One of Texas's signature efforts to boost teacher recruitment and retention received initial approval from the House on Wednesday. Representative Harold Dutton's bill would provide free pre-K classes for the children of school teachers, increase stipends for a subset of high quality educators, and waive some certification fees for candidates, among other changes. Quote, the increased student outcomes we have to increase student outcomes, we have to increase teacher quality, end quote. The Houston Democrat said as he explained the bill. Lawmakers pledged to tackle Texas's leaky teacher pipeline this session. Public education advocates are sounding the alarm about a potential exodus of educators, many of whom felt pushed to the breaking point by the pandemic, cultural wars, and other stressors. Among the provisions in the wide ranging legislation is a requirement for the Texas Education Agency to collect data on teacher vacancies, part of an effort to close the information vacuum around just how many open positions exist in the state. Some teacher groups recently said they're still waiting on meaningful action from the legislature, particularly around pay increases. Quote, while HB 11 make a lot of good improvements, it doesn't fix everything. End quote, said Texas AFT spokesperson Nicole Hill. Namely, educators are looking for a substantial across the board raise. One bill from the Senate would give a $2,000 boost to all classroom teachers with an additional bump for those working in small districts. Dutton's bill, meanwhile, would increase pay out of the teacher incentive allotment, which allows districts to provide big stipends for a subset of high performing educators in high poverty and rural parts of Texas. Parts of his legislation mirror recommendations issued by the state's teacher vacancy task force, including the creation of a revamped teacher residency program for aspiring educators. It will come with money that districts can use to help pay its teacher residents. Some officials have said training teachers similar to doctors, requiring them to study under experienced mentors, could improve outcomes. Students placed with novice teachers are more likely to come from poor families and be children of color. New teachers also tend to achieve less academic growth with their classes, according to Texas Education Agency analysis. Quote, one of the things we've been doing is we've been throwing teachers into the classroom without any experience. We're going to help them learn how to teach, and we're going to pay them to do that, Dutton said. Tucked into the bill is also a key provision related to literacy efforts. It would prohibit a school district from providing instruction that uses 3Qing in the foundational reading lessons for children in kindergarten through third grade. Educator preparation programs could also not include instruction that incorporates this method. This type of instruction encourages children to use context or pictures and sentence structure, not just letters, to identify the correct word. Education Week reported that the strategy is, quote, based on the now disproven theory that reading is a series of strategic guesses informed by context clues, end quote. Texas has been moving toward aligning its literacy instruction with the science of reading, which has included requiring teachers to go through reading academies to show them the research backed strategies for how children learn. Before you go really be, I don't see how that whole part about this reading strategy had anything to do with the first part of the article. And
I
whoever
was
wrote
lost
this
too. I was
article,
like, maybe this is.
whoever wrote this article, I need you to go back to school of journalism on
Yeah,
how to write. Because
yeah, I was lost too.
sorry,
I
go
ain't gonna
ahead.
lie. I was a little confused, so I'm glad.
Yeah,
Um,
it wasn't just you.
again, people keep acting like there's some great science to figuring out how to hold on to teachers. I don't understand why they are acting like this is some weird anomaly that they need to find, the hidden scrolls to figure out. You know, put policies that make sense, pay them what they're worth, give them the respect, don't undermine the authority, put some policies in place, things in place that, create respect once again, or, it's not that hard. And during the Panorama, what happened was a lot of teachers, young teachers, because see, the older teachers knew this already, but a lot of the young teachers were like, you know what? I might have gone to school for 4 years for this, but I could find a whole lot of other things to do to make money. And they were able to make money during the Panorama in education. So they weren't wasting, quote unquote, wasting their degree, and they're good with it. I also saw, because, I got caught up in the TikTok and I was in the teacher algorithm. A lot of teachers were legitimately like, and I quit today. And I quit. in the middle of the quarter, and I quit in the middle of the semester. Like they weren't waiting to the end of the school year, they weren't waiting to the end of the quarter, and they were good. And unfortunately, the school districts haven't accepted because they know it. They haven't accepted that what they have to do. Like you say, you want to hold on to teachers, yet you keep passing these crazy. Like again, I can't. I know I keep saying this over and over again, but it baffles me every time I think about it that it is a felony in the state of Florida now if a teacher gives a student a book that they have deemed is inappropriate. And the list of books, we're not gonna go down that road again, but the list of books is so ridiculous. So I'm like, you have created a situation where teachers can now go to jail for doing their job. But you don't want to know how, but you don't understand why you can't hold on to them. And you understand why you can't keep teachers. What? And I can go somewhere and make more money? What? It's not a Rubik's Cube, people.
I have no sympathy for the great state of Texas. If
None.
you recall, really be we go back to what was it, 2020 or 2021 when Texas was first, and we did it here with the list of 850 books. Remember that? That was
Mm-hmm.
they were way ahead of the pack.
Yeah.
Remember that? Remember they
I
were
remember
way
because we
ahead
went
of
through
the
that
pack.
list. Yeah. You I
Because
think you read through
I
most
sent you
of
the
it.
list.
Yeah.
We read excerpts from the list
Yeah.
here, way ahead of the pack. That was on top of the fact that historically teachers were underpaid. Historically, teachers were devalued, but they stayed in the game because of the greater good, because of their inherent need to make sure that they do their part to see that our society and that this thing that we call the human species is successful, that they have some impact on seeing that the next generation gets what they need. So we stayed. But then, already bogged down with being overworked, underpaid, and undervalued, now you are legitimately taking away from us the things that we need to make a difference with students. So now we can no longer even do the one thing that was keeping us inside the classroom, keeping us in the profession. We dealt with the low pay. We made do with that. We dealt with the not being appreciated and we made do with that. But we still had the ability to have a positive influence and impact on that child, on that individual who could hopefully grow up into an adult and be a productive member of society. You have now taken that away because I can't even have a book that tells this child, hey, here's what's going on with you. Let me help you out. Here's the history of the great people with which you come from. So no matter how much you feel objectified, subjected to the rule of bigotry and discrimination, you are still a great person and there is value in you. We can't even do that anymore. When you start taking resources out of the classroom and out of libraries in the schools that are helping students with their mental health, and you tell us it's illegal to help a child's mental health, why am I wanting to stay there? What is the impetus for me wanting to stay in this profession and deal with this level of abuse? Then to add insult to injuries, now we got to watch our colleagues around the country get murdered like we're on the freaking battlefield in Baghdad or in some other country like it's war. And now we're wondering if we the next one that's going to get mowed down with an assault rifle like we're on the front lines in infantry. Because last time I checked, the classroom is not the front lines of the infantry, but that's what we have going on in these yet to be United States of America. But you wonder why there's a vacancy. There's a vacancy that you caused.
Listen, we have vacancies in our building that we still have not been able to fill all year. The school year is almost over, and we still have those vacancies, which means that those kids didn't get something this year. Um, and you can add the other thing after you talk about teachers getting mowed down, teachers getting assaulted on the job. We started off this episode talking about that.
Hmm.
I mean, for simply enforcing a school rule. This one teacher had a broken leg. This other teacher was arrested. Another teacher, we saw the teacher with the white guy that got sucker punched in his face. Like we have
Mm-hmm.
seen it over and over and over again. And then we have parents that are like, oh well, that's what you signed up for. No, it's not.
No.
No, it's not. I mean, I'm gonna say this. No teacher ever went into the profession expecting to get rich. But we did go into the profession expecting we always had a level of respect. We always had a level of respect. And we always had a sense of, like you said, that we were making an impact and we were, for lack of a better word, changing the world, right? You have your late pass, House of D. I don't know. I don't know, House of D. He said he got his late pass, honey.
We don't do late. Listen, it's nah, bruh. Ain't no late pass. You
Class
getting this good
over. We
answer,
about to dismiss.
bruh.
We gonna hold on to this other
You
article
might
for
as well have skipped class today.
yeah. You might as well just stay where you were, sir. We just
Okay.
joking. Thank you for being here, Z, my love.
We
Um,
still love you though.
yeah, we're gonna hold on to this article from Louisiana until next week because we hold you guys to an hour. Um,
Are we already at our hour? I'm sorry, I got kind of passionate that last
no,
time.
we had no
Um,
because we had that whole conversation at the beginning
mhm.
that we didn't really plan for. But I do want to end on some black excellence. We always listen. We bring y'all the other stuff, but I do want to give you guys some black excellence. Um, this that time of year where we always hear these great stories about these college students who are doing these great things. And so, oh, did I not make the screenshot? Uh
High
oh, wait.
school students.
Yeah, high school. Oh, did I say college? I'm sorry, I meant high school.
Hmm.
So there was a high school student out of Louisiana. Oh shoot, wait a minute. Hold on. I didn't screenshot it, but I have it right here. I have it right here. I have it right here. Um I think it was uh, I think it was Hollywood Unlocked. But he is out of the state of Louisiana. He is a high school graduate this year, and he has been awarded, I believe it's over $9 million
Hmm.
in scholarship money. Ah, oh
You
shoot.
need the information.
Yeah, I thought I had screenshot it. Hold on, I think Tracy sent it to me. If you have it, yeah. If you have it, real quick, yeah.
I think I
How
have it.
he said he'll get the notes from a classmate child.
Yeah, it's the New Orleans. His name is Dennis Barnes. He's
Thank you.
16. And as of Tuesday, the New Orleans high school student has applied to 200 schools and universities across the United States. He got into 170 of them, most on a full ride.
Uh oh.
Has received just over $9 million in academic scholarships from higher education schools, his school said. Well, who are the 30 that decided it was a good idea not to offer him this?
I don't know.
Am I frozen? Oh, God.
No, you're back. You're back now. You're back now.
Okay. I want to know who are the 30 schools that decided not to offer him the money. I'm,
I don't know. They're gonna feel stupid though.
am I back? Now my internet is doing a
You're
lot
back
right
now. You're back now.
now. Okay. But did you get the gist of the art? Did you hear the gist of the
Yeah, I
article?
did. Yeah, I got the most
Okay,
of it.
okay,
The
good.
gist of it, yeah. Yeah. So thank you for being here. Budgets and ways. So we want to give you guys some black excellence. We try to bring y'all. We definitely try to bring y'all some of that positive. So with that being said, you guys, we're going to head on out. El Teddy, are you going live later on today? Uh oh. Did he freeze up again? Are you going live today?
I am not. I have a lot to do today, but I will be able to go live tomorrow because the Janet Jackson concert got pushed to Friday, so I will be able to go live tomorrow.
Okay, so El Teddy will be live tomorrow. I'm not sure what my schedule is today. I'm waiting to see if I'm going to get some information that I'm going to go live about. But so just make sure your notifications are on. Thank you guys for being here as always. And we will talk to you guys later. Peace. Peace and